Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again, folks, to the segment of Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. Well, folks, wake up. As you can see, I've got this tie on. This is a tie that my wife put together. It's campaign tie. Mm-hmm. Isn't that neat, Bruce?
That's like nice, yeah.
That's a heck of a deal. She made that tie for me.
Red, white, and blue.
That's right. This is campaign time, so folks, wake up. I mean, that's what it's all about. And the bottom line is that you got to prepare yourself. Come March, you're going to probably be seeing those candidates that are going to be running between then and May. And so that's a very important time period. But in all due respect, there are some folks that are out there knocking on the doors right now, and I just happen to have one. And he happens to be a gubernatorial candidate. You've seen him before, you know what I'm saying? And right up front with it, this guy is awesome. He's awesome. Bruce, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, Bruce. Thanks for having me.
He's looking fantastic as far as I'm concerned. And so anyway, the other thing too is, he's a military, so he's got his hat there on the deal. He's resting a little bit there. Former Army, right?
Yes.
Army veteran aspect of it.
So's my son. My son's in the Army too.
Wow, you say he's just getting back.
21 years old. Yeah, wow. Just getting back from Kuwait.
Wow.
So he's at Fort Hood, and he's going to be home Saturday.
Awesome. So. Awesome. Well, as you can see, I got the garb on. You got the hat routine, and we got some major issues that people are always looking at. Thanks for serving.
Yeah.
And again, thank you again for serving Bruce, and that's a very important piece. And as you can see, that I'm a little bit more senior than you are. But we're representing the seniors aspect of it. You got me? I won't take my hat off.
56, I'm a senior.
Well, you got a little bit more hat on. That's why I keep mine on. You don't have to worry about your piece. But no, let's take some time here for Bruce. We're gonna spend a good 20 minutes for me. He's opening up the campaign for us, and like I said, the whole idea, folks. Remember, you're gonna, we vote by mail here. You're gonna be getting a voter's pamphlet first, then you're gonna get your voting ballot, if you will. So it's going to be very, very important that you read that, you look at it, make sure you're registered. It's not after the fact routine and start getting upset after the election's over with. You got to do it up front. And we're going to do everything we can to interview candidates that are knocking on doors to represent us, to really represent. Because in all due respect, there's a commercialization when it goes into the so-called voter's pamphlet. Mm-hmm. The more money you have, the more professionally they can make you look good.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But the bottom line, we want the issues being addressed. And it just so happened I've got Bruce here, and trust me, with his background and his business, he's a small businessman in his own right. He happens to be in real estate, so that makes it beautiful. He's knocking on doors. He's being able to go in houses and see the conditions that people are living in, the environment, the whole 9 yards. That's a very important piece, but he's more than qualified, let's put it that way. And so, and I know he's a very active kind of a guy just campaigning. He knocks on doors around the state as best he can. And so, but he's here. He's not giving up. He's there at the table. So it's time now that we give him the best shot, because it's about the issues. Remember that it's about the issues. So when you get the voter's pamphlet, you look at that piece, but the thing you want to do, you want this visual, live kind of a situation where you're visiting with the candidate. And I'm going to, over the Oregon Voters Digest, I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that the candidates are coming forward to you, and you can hear them in live, living color, if you will. Very, very important. We're living in some very important times right now. Mm-hmm. We're right in the midst of transition. Sometimes we look at our public, it's kind of like a divided situation, like we just got out of the revolution from a year way back aspect. Yeah. But trust me, at the end of the revolution, we're going to be right back in there. The kids are all educated, and it's one of those situations. They're educated now. They got a little bit more savvy aspect of it, but now they're calling the shots. And that's another transition, because they're able to get the monies here, and the little guys kind of being shoved out, especially senior citizens. Mm-hmm. So if you can't read, and write, if you will, guess what? You're going to be left behind, and that's when that criminal justice system comes into play. So it's very, very important that we get the kinds of candidates that's going to be able to understand what those issues are, and we're going to have that discussion, because, like I said, it's a revolution. And then we still have that little Civil War kind of a mindset aspect of it. But because we're right into this other piece, let's make sure we understand, we do have the stars and stripes aspect of it, but we need to bring everybody together to the table. So we need to have that discussion, and we will have that historical discussion. But at the end of the day, we're all together. And that's a very important piece.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm just going to go on and just hand it over to Bruce. And Bruce is going to just give us some good background in terms of why is he running, and just give you a little quickie on terms of what you do and this, that, and the other. And let's go right from there, Bruce. Okay?
Okay, well.
You got family? You married?
Yeah, I'm got my wife and I. This
Bruce Cuff, too.
Bruce Cuff, yeah.
BC.
Yeah, and you can find me. My Facebook page is Bruce Cuff for Governor of Oregon, and I've got a website that's www.timeforcuff.org, and that's the number 4. I think it works either way, but timeforcuff.org.
Okay.
But yeah, my wife and I we've been married 36 years on the 19th. And we have 4 children, and I've got 3 granddaughters. And my youngest son is not married. He's in the Army, and he's at Fort Hood right now. Just got back from spending a tour in Kuwait, and so he'll be home for Christmas, which we're looking forward to. It's great to have him out of harm's way there.
Right.
So
yes, that's a toughie up there right now.
But I'm running for governor of Oregon because Oregon needs. We need to come together in Oregon, and we need. Oregon over the past few years has become more and more divided, and economically we've struggled because, and I'm gonna go a little bit different direction, Bruce. But in Oregon we have this $25 billion hole in the PERS system, and it affects many different sections of Oregon if we don't deal with it. And one of them that we just passed the minimum wage law that gives, and we're rolling out, raising the minimum wages up. But that's hurting businesses, and not only businesses, but seniors. When you talk about, the cost of living, and even going out for restaurant now, when they're having to pay more for the wages for the waiters and waitresses, the prices go up.
Yep.
So it affects people because they got to pass that on. So what I'd like to see is we need to have our businesses, we need to actually eliminate or lower the taxes on our businesses. So as we raise those minimum wages, the taxes go down, so the costs, they can deliver their product without raising costs on people. And also that's going to make us more competitive as far as trying to compete, for our businesses to compete, to other states or even globally, because this is a global economy. Our states, our businesses that are in our state need to be able to compete all over the place. But because the PERS deficit is out there, that $25 billion, what we continue to see is we continue to see the leadership trying to raise taxes on businesses. Well, they've got minimum wages going up, and if they try to raise taxes on businesses, all they're doing is pushing businesses out of Oregon. And in Oregon, our general fund is made up of 95% of the money that comes into the general fund is personal income taxes that you and I pay as Oregonians, on our wages. Okay. The other 5% is business taxes and lottery, cigarette tax, alcohol tax, that kind of stuff. But the majority of that is personal income taxes. So when they try to raise taxes on businesses, and businesses move out of state and they take their jobs out of state, well, all those jobs that we're paying into our general fund, we're going backwards. We're not going forwards. So for us to go forward, because the minimum wage is going up, and people are making more money, and they're going to be paying higher personal income taxes, so the revenue will go up to the state. What that tells me is now's the time to actually cut taxes on businesses, to actually say, we want businesses around the area to know, hey, Oregon's a place for you to do business, right? And if we have Oregon becomes a business magnet, and we attract businesses from all over the place. Number one, we have more competition. Prices will get better. Even though we're raising the minimum wage in Oregon, which is scheduled to roll out, over the course of time, our businesses can still stay competitive. So it's a win-win. People are going to get paid more, and what's going to happen. I just talked to a guy that works for UPS last night, and he said, their starting wage there, union-wise, is like $16-17 an hour. They can't find anybody to drive for that, so they're actually having to hire them at like $23-24 an hour. So to me, that's the right way to have minimum wage go up, is that we have so many businesses in the state of Oregon, so much opportunity for employment, that these businesses have a hard time finding laborers.
Wow.
So then they got to pay more.
Wow.
You know, that's the right. Let the market work. Let the market do it, and it will. But right now, right now with the PERS deficit, you know, we have it affects schools, because trying to figure out how to cover that deficit, more and more of what the schools actually get to use is being siphoned off and used to pay the PERS deficit down. And so what you're seeing is teachers' jobs cut, and you're seeing class sizes grow. So 2 years ago, in 2014, we were spending $10,000 a student in Oregon. Just 2 years later, in 2016, it's over $13,000 a student.
Wow.
And that is tied into the PERS deficit and it growing.
And those are government retirees.
Those are
right?
government retirees.
Retirement
right?
money.
It's
right?
It's a public
money,
employment
basically,
retirement
yeah.
system. And
right.
the thing is, it's not, you know, we have a contract with the state workers to make sure that we cover this debt. Well, if they continue to hire people to state and allow our private sector businesses to go, that's going to be a tough nut to crack to pay that. So, you know, if we could hold the line on state employment and have more business opportunity and more money coming to state, over time we can meet this deficit. And so even with all of the stuff that they try to do to Oregon businesses, Oregonians prosper. I mean, we had the largest amount of money coming. I mean, there's a huge amount of money that they got over last biennium that they actually raised in taxes, but it still wasn't enough.
Wow.
They were still behind, but they had. But Oregonians are out there working. They're doing the right things. And, you know, and I believe if we could just say to businesses, look, we're going to lower your taxes. We're going to eliminate your taxes, you know, so you know, you'll have a more, and then that way they can afford to pay that higher minimum wage, and economically we can move forward
attract
in Oregon.
more businesses
and attract more businesses to come to Oregon. That's right.
Okay.
So, but see, in Oregon right now, 1 out of 6 businesses, there's 1.8 million people employed in Oregon. There's 4 million people in the state. 1.8 million are employed. Out of that, 300,000 of those are government jobs. That's 1 out of every 6 jobs is government.
Wow.
That is unsustainable, right? And out of that 300, 10% are federal jobs, and those jobs pay, you know, 75, 80,000
What
a year.
should that ratio be, you think?
Well, I think it should be more like 1 in 8 or
1 in 8,
1 in 8.
10
You
or
know,
something
yeah,
like that.
1 in 10. I mean, you know, and what we have right now. There's a little known law. Let me see if I can. Let's see if I got it on here. I don't think I do. Yeah, there's in every budget. There at the very end of the budget, there's a law, ORS 240-185.
Okay.
And what it is it's a cap on the number of people that can be employed by the state of Oregon. It's a 1.5%. Of the population.
Okay.
It's a cap on the number of people that can work in Oregon.
And where are we now?
This is what I'm going to get at. We were encroaching upon that 1.5%, right? Well, in 2011, when Kit Hopper was governor, they passed Senate Bill 242, and that actually removed 1/3 of the state that we counted as part of the state employment. It removed them from that count.
Wow.
Right.
So it took the cap off.
It took the cap off. So in order to actually have a reasonable cap now, we'd have to change that 1.5% to 1%. And this was actually recommended to the governor by the Ways and Means Committee in a letter that they wrote to her last April that said, look, if you're trying to control spending of the state of Oregon, what you need to do is you need to move that 1.5% cap down to a 1% cap. And really, in 2011, they already took 1/3 of the employees, 16,000 employees, off the table. You know, so the numbers we're looking at now, I mean, they're not real, because you need to add another 16,000 to what you've got employed, and we're over that cap right now. But because they did that in 2011, it's kind of like, I call it hiding the pea. You know, you don't want to tell people, you want to make people think that you're really you're doing a good job and you're efficient. You're not. I mean, you just you just hid a third of the employees, and then you continue to hire.
Just to add a little bit more benefit to what you just got through saying, we're a balanced budget state.
Yeah.
You
got to have a balanced budget.
Whatever money, how much money you get, whatever money we get, if you will, that's all you got to spend.
Yep.
In some cases, you do away with many of the other services, that we may need, if you will.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, they're gone, and folks need to know what that's all about.
Right.
So a lot of times it depends on who's pushing what monies first, right? Heavy. So PERS has always been a situation where that it's been an issue.
Right.
Is there any consideration from that particular group that guarantees their so-called retirement?
Well,
is there any discussion along that?
Well, there's I just saw something that the Oregonian published. It actually published there's 125,000 people as of January 1st that are actually getting PERS benefits, and it had them ranked, like from the person who got the most money down to the one that got the least amount of money. So
that'd blow your mind.
Yeah, but basically,
who at the top?
Well, basically 50% of the people that are on PERS, they make $25,000 or less. And so
50%.
50% of them, there's not.
They need that. That's no.
Yeah, that's not. So what? So the PERS system, I mean, people want to treat it like, and there are some people that kind of game the system. They spike their income at the end using, and I don't think they should be able to do this.
Right.
They take your last 3 years of your average wage, and that's what your retirement is based on. Well, currently they allow people at the very end of their employment to take their vacation pay and their sick leave and get paid that all at once, and then they can use that to make their income look higher, so they get more money. See, they should not be able to do that. I don't. If you work for the state for a long time and you've earned a retirement, but don't game the system. I mean, that's just not fair. It's basic fairness.
I saw two state representatives just recently. They gave up their seat, seniority, so to speak.
Yeah.
In all due respect, to 1R and 1D, if you will, and they basically went and got their
golden parachute.
They got the golden parachute. So the key is that they will automatically jump like 20 years in that PERS system.
Well, Well, think about this though. Think about this. You're going from making about $35,000 as a legislator to making $125,000 at the new job that you're getting, and your position is only good for 2 years.
And then they'll
right, but you got to have a third year to get that. So how independent do you think their decision making is going to be when that third year they really got to have the governor to reappoint them?
Yes, right. Oh my.
So basically, you got 2 years where whatever the governor wants, they're going to get. And see, you're not independent then. See, because of PERS, the way it's tied in there. See
that's where the lobbyists come in. That's where the lobbyists come in and say, hey, look, I will give this a blah 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 routine. So it's an issue. You think they'll ever get to the point where they can discuss that issue? That they can't just get out and get into that kind of a situation?
Well, I think when the people demand it and people say, I want to know what's going on. Tell me what's going on. And that's what I try to do.
Will you tell them, Bruce, if you got elected?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I thought Ronald Reagan was a great communicator. And one of the reasons I really like Ronald Reagan, because when he had an issue that he was trying to get across to the voters, man, he would bring it. And he would talk to the voters about this issue. I remember when they were trying to do tax cuts, and he drew it out and he says, here, he had the chart, and he says, they say if we lower the taxes, revenue is going to go down, but I say based on this theory, this curve, that I think the rate's too high, we lower the rate, revenue is going to go up. And history tells us that he was right.
Well, I like Ronald Reagan. He did his thing, but I'm thinking about Bruce Cuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
but what I'm saying
how
is
would Bruce Cuff react to this kind of stuff?
Well, that's what
you're going to do.
Absolutely. I mean, I try to understand. When I get something, I try to understand it,
right,
and then trying to put it in a so somebody else could understand it. Like this week, we had the Secretary of State put out their audit of the Oregon Health Plan, right? Well, over the last few years, Oregon, that's Medicaid money that comes into Oregon that we use to pay for the Oregon Health Plan. Mm-hmm. We went from 600,000 members in the Oregon Health Plan with the Affordable Health Care Act. We went to over 1 million people using Oregon health plan now. Well, that's a 25% of Oregonians, and the way we pay for service, it's not very efficient, right? Because you got a myriad of people looking over each other's shoulder to make sure that things are done properly, and they're not, and so their answer is to hire more people. Well, that just increases the cost of insurance. It doesn't give us better health care. See, we should be focused on what's going to give us the best health care at the most reasonable price. And this current system is just not, it's just not
Let me send a signal back in the studio.
Sure.
I think we got to go on. We need to take that extra 10 minutes. Can we do that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll go on and take that extra 10 minutes, and we'll do the 4:30 kind of a deal, because the bottom line is that there's some one more other issue that we really want to cover.
Yes.
And but before you leave the health, it actually is called. It basically we'll be talking about the sanctuary city thing here in the state of Oregon.
Right.
But before we get off of healthcare, and I know that I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, you know, we're very conscious about the seniors and whatever.
Absolutely.
Folks getting health care.
Yeah.
Because the baby boomers are getting older, if you will, and I realize that the kids are getting, you know what I mean, they've graduated from schools, they can afford one, but a lot of times these folks are in a kind of retirement age.
Right.
They've got fixed income assets.
Right.
They got to keep paying that rent in many ways, those payments. So I know there's a sensitivity there, and we need to make sure that we it's healthy. The key is that how do we pay it, because we got a balanced budget aspect of it.
Yeah.
And most people who are not there tend not to relate to that end of it, even though it's mom and dad. They still don't. But at the end of the day, a lot of those folks drop out the deal, and they go back and want to live in mom and dad's home.
Right. Well, you know, you and I are veterans, so we have our veterans benefits, so we know we're covered. But not everyone has that.
That's right. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Not everybody has that benefit.
I'm glad you reminded the fact they need to get down there. That's why I've got the guard on too. Get down there and get those benefits. Now let's jump right up into, because this is a big one. And by the way, I will mention to you the fact that Bruce is going to be back here again. He's going to be running all over the state, visiting all these counties and whatever. But the fact of the matter is, I want him to spend just a few minutes on the sanctuary city, because that's a big issue right now throughout the country. Now, I'd like to talk to you a little bit. I'd like for you to share a little bit about Oregon, and how do you feel about that situation, and what are you hearing out there knocking on those doors?
Well, our sanctuary status for Oregon, it came about when Vic Atiyeh was governor. And basically the law states that, you know, you can't go after somebody just based on their immigration status to, you know, for a law enforcement person, and turn them over to immigration. But there's some exemptions in that law that says, you know, if the person's a criminal and you find out they're here illegally, that you can work with the immigration service to actually remove that person, or if you become aware there's a federal warrant for that person, they're here illegally. So there's a number of exemptions there. Well, after President Trump got elected president, our governor, Kate Brown, in February of 2017, she wrote an executive order that basically, in reality, what it's done is it's got rid of all those exemptions. So the public safety aspect of having a criminal that you've identified as being here illegally, from the Oregon's point of view, the law enforcement are restricted from even communicating with immigration service. And I know there's those that argue that say, well, yeah, if you read it, it doesn't say that. But the fact of the matter is, the way it's being implemented at law enforcement offices is that they are, even if the person's a criminal and they got to turn them out on the street, they are not contacting the immigration service. And if, as governor of Oregon, my number one responsibility is the health and safety of Oregonians, right? Well, if somebody's here illegally, they're not Oregonian. They're not an Oregonian, right? And if they're breaking the law, as far as, you know, I mean, some of these repeated property crimes, you know, car theft, hit and run, driving while under the influence. I mean, all these kind of things that they do, and they're brought up on charges, and then they get released, then they never show up for court, you know, and we can't contact the immigration service.
Tell me, Bruce, it has been said that documented-wise, there are about 11 million undocumented immigrants here right now. And of that, how many are identified in Oregon? How many are there? Any idea?
I have no idea. I imagine there probably are, you know. But but really, I mean, our focus is more about public safety. It's not about it's not about if somebody's here illegally, in my opinion, because the sanctuary status thing. Because here's the real ugly thing is that these folks usually live in an immigrant community, and when we turn them loose, they go right back into that immigrant community, and they're a danger to their own communities, and we should be protecting them because you got Oregonians that are living in that immigrant community, but yet here's an illegal alien person, and they're inflicting harm on that community of Oregonians, and the governor should be concerned about that.
Oh, very much so. Very much
and it doesn't seem like she is. I mean, she's more concerned with allowing the immigration. I don't know. It's just an how can you not be concerned about Oregonians' public safety?
What about the legislature there at this point in time? I mean, this is a major issue. We got, like I said, we got X number of people under our system that's undocumented. Right. And people are looking the other way as opposed to dealing with the issue. Well, I mean, we're very humane and compassionate folks, but the bottom line is that somebody
well, what we're doing, Oregonians for Immigration Reform, they have an initiative petition. It's IP22, and it is going to essentially. It is going to overturn that law. It's going to get rid of that law.
That's Beretta.
Okay, So and that petition is out there now, and we're gathering signatures for that. And I'm gathering signatures for that on when I'm out on the campaign. In fact, I was out last night, and I got a number of signatures on that. So, but you know, we have to protect Oregonians. You know, and I don't care if they're. Why should we treat an illegal alien different than a regular criminal? I mean, if they're a criminal, they're a criminal. You know, and if we can't put them in our prison, and they keep reoffending and they're here illegally, our law enforcement officers should be able to communicate with the immigration officials and say this person needs to be removed. So
wow. Well, hey, look like we've done a lot. You started it. You started the whole situation with the campaign, and I liked it because you're a very exciting kind of a guy, and I know for a fact you're knocking on doors and meeting the people, and so this is a good entree, if you will, for all the other folks that are going to be coming. And so I want to thank you very much, and hopefully we can schedule something as soon as possible. In fact, if you don't mind, contact Beretta on those guys and see whether or not you might be able to put something together where you can be here with them when we're talking about this issue.
Okay.
That'd be okay with you?
That would be good.
Okay, Bruce, it's always a pleasure. Again, thanks again. Thank that young man for serving too, by the way.
I will. I'll see him Saturday.
Okay, good enough. Well, there we go, folks. You got Bruce here, and we want to thank him for being here with us. He's running for governor. He's been there before, but like I say, it's very, very important now. He sees the divide.
Yes.
He saw the one before the divide.
We have to come together.
We got to come together and get this thing all squared away. There's a lot of things on the table. So it's important that you, too, when you get to see the voter's guide, you actually see the people who are running for office and make sure you look at the real resume. Real resume is very important. We need leadership now in this state. Very much important. Bruce, again, thank you very much. Okay, folks, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back.
You are watching Oregon Voters Digest. This program can be seen again on these channels on these dates and times. Tell a friend.
Broussard, the Oregon Voters Digest here. I'm the host here today, and I got my co-host, one of the co-hosts. We normally have a team of three here, myself and Don DuPay and Therese, who basically carries us both.
Yes.
For that matter. But the fact of the matter is, I thought it would be a good opportunity now to kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that happened here within the metropolitan area over the last week. and a lot of things have been happening. And even from a national perspective, you know, we had the whole issue with the sex thing and this, that, and the other. It's kind of interesting how they're discussing it as if like it's some foreign thing, as if no one knew anything about this thing. It's a culture. And everybody, in all due respect, were part of that one way or the other. You know, we were all part of that whole piece. So the name of the game is this: what are we going to do to come up with something that's going to be amenable or satisfied, so we can move on and talk about those other major. This is major now, because it's a very major issue, because women have been treated that way for years, if you will, many times over. But then it's been a culture because of the male birds and bees. You can all kinds of folks got all kinds of this, that, and the other. But right now, it's pretty well focused on the situation. If you got some money, you're gonna get hit if you're in a public view or in a private sector. If you don't have any money, they'll come back with another deal. And then so we're gonna discuss that a little bit more. And then by the way, we're gonna open up the lines. We're gonna go on and open up the lines now. We're just going to open up the lines. And this will be just kind of discussion. But now remember, try to keep your questions short and to the point of an issue, and that'll be cool. And then we'll just sit down and talk. You got me? And so we're going to just kind of talk about a number of things. And then we're going to kind of keep it right here. But the bottom line, let's talk about the sex thing. We'll do that. We'll do that one first. Then we'll talk. Then we'll bring it back to Portland metropolitan area, and the state of Oregon, because we got the whole issue with Sanctuary City. That's a biggie aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And then we got the local, the Portland. Well, we got City Hall. We got our mayor. We got we got a new chief now. We set aside some money for a deputy chief, and that's another issue aspect of it. So, and then if you got something on your mind that you feel that addresses the issues that talk to the betterment of our way of life here in the city of Portland, please bring it onto the table. But when you do that, also talk to a solution, because that's what we're looking for. I mean, you can get upset, but talk to a solution and then make it short. So with that, we've opened up the line. You got the number on the screen, 503-673-1826. 503-673-1826. Okay? And if you missed the show early on, then what you can do is just go to YouTube, and it repeats on Comcast too. You saw the schedule, but you can also go to YouTube and pick it up. Probably give it a day or two, and you can pick it up at YouTube. But then you can't call us. But that's where we are right now. So Don, how you been?
I'm good, thank you.
You're looking good. You got a neat jacket. You got one that says Navy. I got one that says, I said one that says Marine Corps aspect of it, and that's basically letting the folks know out there.
We're both veterans.
That's right. Please and please follow up on your benefits, because you know healthcare is such a major commodity nowadays. And if you meet the criteria, guess what? Your healthcare is taken care of. I mean, deservedly too, by the way. Thanks for serving, if you will. So if you are a family member that knows of a vet that's either been in Vietnam War, if not in the Vietnam War, Korean War, or not in the Vietnam War, or the Iraqi War, or whatever. But if they're a veteran with a 214, which is that certificate, if you will, to go in and apply for these benefits and health care and homelessness, the whole 9 yards, please direct them to the VA. You can Google a veteran, you can veteran, U.S. veterans, anywhere and everywhere. Veterans in Oregon, veteran facility in Portland, any way you want to, call that number and they'll go through a process, and there you go. You're at the table, okay? So with that, now let's just get right back to our discussion here at the table aspect of it. One of the biggest things from a national perspective is the sex thing, right? Got me? And for those of you who don't look at the news or don't read the newspaper, it's huge. I mean, it's impacting everybody. It's a nonpartisan kind of a access to. I mean, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're red, whether you're brown. I think I covered all of it, right? The whole issue of our society is being hit by this deal. You know, and they even basically have talked with in regards to the president along that line aspect too. But the fact of the matter is that it's out there on the table. And I will say one thing: had that not happened to him, and had folks not made a big issue of that, we wouldn't be talking about this issue now. Because in politics, it's like anything else. I'm going to talk about you, and then you're going to find something to talk about me. That's just the way it is, and we're living in that environment right now. So now, all of a sudden, it's all up in the Congress. I mean, CNN was talking about Fox, and CNN was talking about Trump. And so now, all of a sudden, there's some folks that got involved in the CNN end of it. And then the same thing with Fox, and same thing. I mean, just across the board. I mean, and then in the congressional delegation, which was a major piece, it was Conyers. I mean, that was kind of interesting that they brought him to the table, and one of the most senior representative in the Capitol. He happens to be an African American of the Black Caucus aspect of it, but I'm just picking out on him aspect of it. But a lot of times you would think that wouldn't be the case, because the other thing because I'm talking about that one, because all of a sudden they found some $18 million that was dedicated to sexual harassment, to basically solve those problems. $18 million. Now the same people are fighting not to give up the names of the people who basically used that pot to pay off, if you will, the so-called folk that was sexually sexually molested or whatever, to that effect, aspect of it. I thought that was very interesting aspect of it. And then other congressmen too. There were congressmen all over the place, and they're still counting them. And then in TV land, in commercial TV land, I mean, you got some famous folks that are sitting up there. You had Charlie Rose, and you had just to name a few, Charlie Rose, and then what's the other guy? Matt Lauer. Aspect of it. Was it ABC or NBC? One of them.
I don't know.
But anyway, one of the deal. But here's Matt, and then now Matt Lauer is saying he's going to sue the station for $30 million, because he said he was wrongly done. And then the Congress is saying we need to have sexual harassment training. Now what baffles me about that, Don, is that down below here, in all the government agencies and this, that, and the other, they were having those sexual harassment kind of guidelines and this, that, and the other. And here the people who are voting for the thing, they didn't even have the guidelines themselves, which is an issue. Basically, we're able to do anything they want to do, so to speak. That's why term limits, to me, makes a lot of sense to solving a lot of that problem. Term limits for people running for office. Is that fair?
I totally agree.
Across the board.
Across the board.
Everybody for that matter. But the culture has always been the person who has the dollars, or the person who had the whatever. They're just basically, look, we're just going to do this forever. You know what I mean? That type of deal. And so that doesn't help the situation out at all. I'm going to get your comments now. And by the way, give us a call now, 503-673-1826 if you want to get in on the conversation. Go on, Don.
The thing about the sexual harassment thing is that the man at the very top, the president, should have never been president because of these sexual problems he's had. But it seems to be they're not talking much about him. They're talking about the lesser people. All the people downstream, they're all in trouble. Lauer, Charlie Rose, they're all in trouble. You need to go back to the top. I really don't care what these guys are doing. They're going to live with their own conscience. But the president is the one that set the example. Thanks a lot, old man. Thanks a lot.
But we did make the point.
Other thing.
Okay, go on.
It's the other thing. Is that rich and powerful men have always been able to get away with this kind of stuff. But how about the poor working girl, the retail clerk who gets harassed too? They don't have the access. They don't have the. I'm going to call my Fox News man. I'm going to call my CNN rep. That stuff goes on and on and on. These poor women at the lower levels, they don't have a voice that the rich victims have, and that's a shame. It's a cultural thing, like you said, but it needs to stop.
And even at the low end of it, people they're getting sexually harassed even on the low end, like you said. But had it not been for this political piece, we never would have gotten to the table. Because my point is that they said, okay, fine, let's put the laws on the people down at the bottom, but we don't have to worry about this deal. And that's the thing that's really hit. But now it's at the top. And more people are going to the table and say, this is how I've done it. I've heard a statement, for instance, they said, well, okay, a woman, for instance, there was a little side deal where she says, well, and I've asked some folks about this, said, well, Bruce, my position is that I was up in Hollywood and this, that, and the other, and the key was, who do I screw to get in the Hollywood to be an actor? Who do I screw to get out? You get my point?
I'm sure there are people with that ambition.
Yeah.
How do I get the job?
Yeah.
Is that what I have to do?
And that's across the board. Yeah,
that's fine.
That's on anything.
That's fine, but that's just a really sad situation.
Yeah, it's really sad. Well, what do you think we're going to be going with this? What do you
That's
think?
the way to stop it.
No, but
I think that the first woman that Donald Trump harassed, if she'd have given him a new set of teeth, that'd be in the end of it right then and there.
Okay.
And I think that's the solution today. If you touch me, I'm going to smack you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like it, tough.
Then if they lose their job, then what?
You know what? You lost your job.
Okay, okay.
You got your integrity.
Yes.
Don't
there
be
you go. Yes.
Otherwise you're just saying, okay,
Yes.
my body's for sale. You can
Yes.
fondle me if
Yes.
you want.
Yes.
This job is more important.
Yeah.
Then no.
Yeah. Well, one thing we do recognize that maybe we might have created term limit just kind of neat on the political end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because things are happening up there, right? You got me? So there's gonna be some openings now. You got me? So maybe we might have solved some of the term limit piece.
Yeah.
But then again, where do we go? How do we deal with those? Because we still haven't hit the other issues down below, the people that are not at that money aspect of it. What about this end too?
They have to take care of themselves. It's
But like you said, the first thing is you
have to take care of
Integrity.
yourself. If you don't like what your boss is doing to you, kick him in the butt.
don't take the job.
Don't take the job. There's something to be said for an immediate
Right,
and
right.
overwhelming
Yeah.
response.
Right.
If you get knocked on your butt, you might not get up again for a while.
Right.
It's
And then a lot of times some of these bosses might say, "Hey, look, I hear where you're coming from."
Yeah.
You tell them right up front,
Yeah.
and then they'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
Right? Is that fair?
That's
Got me?
correct. Yeah.
And so now we're talking about this across the board.
It's
Okay.
a culture that I don't understand because from my generation,
Yeah.
my father wouldn't even think of things like that. I never did either.
Well, in all due respect, when you think about it, even during the slave days and this, that, and the other, way back when.
Well, that's a different story.
She's not the woman. See, we're different. You're not if you're an African American during that time, you're just a slave.
Yeah.
In some cases, there were even white slaves. A lot of folks don't even talk about that part. But no one wants to talk about it. That's been going on for years.
Yeah.
They've made movies of it.
Yeah.
They had movies about the whole deal. This, that, and the other. This, that, and the other. But now, all of a sudden, that culture is here and it's impacting all of us across the board.
Don't do it, man. Keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Or you might be looking for a new set of teeth.
That's right.
Don't try it on my wife. We'll be looking for a new set of teeth.
Yeah, I heard that.
Promise you that.
Same here, buddy. Trust me. Okay, well that's one particular. That's a major issue. The other major issue is the whole issue of sanctuary city. I mean, again, from a national perspective, that's a major issue. You got me? And we're talking about 11 million people in an undocumented kind of an environment, which is a major issue. You would ask, well, why didn't they solve this problem a long time ago? It's like, how did it become get to be a sanctuary city? You got my point? Mm-hmm. Somebody had to put the legislation together. In essence, who's going to benefit as a result of that, right? You got me? See what I'm saying? And they use the undocumented, because when you start thinking about the entire Congress, on both sides of the aisle, okay, it should never have gotten to this 11 million documented situation aspect of it, okay? They just open up the door, you got me? So who benefited in that situation, got me?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Look like we got a caller. Let's go on and see if we can get this call. Okay. Caller, you're on the air. Your question or comment, please. Yes, do you hear us?
Bruce Broussard.
Yes, tell him to turn the volume up in here. I hear him in the background, but I don't. Can you turn us the volume?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Come on. A little louder, folks. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so just backing up a minute, talking about all these investigations into people and the things that have been going on. There's a petition out there about starting an investigation on President Trump and his actions. What do you think about that?
Right. Any thoughts from your end of it? Then we'll get into discussion.
Well, I think what should be equal treatment should be equal treatment for all people.
Okay. Why do you think they haven't acted? Why do you think they haven't acted on that? I mean, he is president of the United States. Trust me, he was voted on by the people, and then you got the legislative, you got the branches and this, that, and the government. Why has it stopped? Why aren't they doing anything?
Well, maybe there's a possibility that people are fearful that if it goes forward, they may not be keeping their jobs.
That's right. Like now. You see what I'm
Right
saying?
now.
You got me? So like now. So you're right. You bring up a good point. Thank you very much, caller. He brings up a good point.
Okay,
again
this is Bruce
about the
Point
fact
there,
that,
by
you
the
know,
way.
but that was done early on, but there was no follow up through the piece. You got me? And we saw it all on screen. We saw the whole deal. The women's came up and lined up and said he did this, and he said, well, no, I didn't do it.
I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. But the politics kept it on the table because it was kind of like I've always made that statement about we're still in a presidential election, if you will. You got me? You got the President Trump, who's running right now, if you will, still running, and CNN. I put CNN there because you had the back and forth routine. Fox was in the game too, but the bottom line, it was more focused on Trump and CNN, so to speak, for that piece. So you asked yourself the question. So why didn't they do something about that piece? But then all of a sudden, all these other acts started coming to the table. You got me? So someone on this side said, "Look here, why don't we hit them for a change, right?" And then some people said they denied it. Some people got convicted, and a lot of folks are still denying it, right? So some way, shape, or form, they got to have that discussion and come up with some sort of a policy. So that becomes part and parcel of the definition for vetting individuals that are running for president. These are the things you can do, and these are the things you can't do. But that's not. But no point. That's not being in the
Doesn't
discussion.
seem to make much difference. He's not qualified to get a security clearance.
Well, but
He's not qualified to get a security clearance that I had.
Okay.
He's not qualified for it.
Okay.
So how does he get it?
It's okay.
He shouldn't have it.
Okay. So then
He shouldn't have that. He shouldn't have this job. He should face up to the fact that he's harassed all these women all these years and just deal with that. And it's just, he's never been a man.
Okay.
That's the thing about it. He's always been a rich little boy. He's never been a man.
Okay.
And now he's got a top secret security clearance, which insults me and you.
Okay. But again, I'm still going with i.e. the form. When one runs for office, right? Got me? You would think that particular process should be able to vet those things. There should be line items saying, "Are you this? Are you this? Are you this? Are you this? Are you this?" Sign at the bottom line, right? If you violate this stuff, this will happen. Why aren't we discussing that?
How does that affect a chronic liar?
Yeah, but
Trump is a liar.
Yeah, but let's say, if those questions were asked about this, that, and the other, and if any one of these things are violated, they will automatically put you out. But we don't. Do we have such a document?
No.
Okay, since we don't have such a document, do you think we should put that document as part and parcel for the next election?
Be irrelevant.
Was that?
I think it would be irrelevant.
It'd be irrelevant? Why would that be, Don?
Because rich people can do what they want to do.
Yeah, but
You can sign a petition, you can sign a document. If I'm the president, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm
But
sorry.
the majority
I'm gonna do what I want to do.
But isn't it supposed
I'll
to
sign
be,
your form.
But isn't it supposed to
I'll
be
have a meeting.
But it's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and
Yeah.
for the people.
No.
Do you believe in that?
I believe in it, but it's not happening.
It's not happening.
That's a lost ideal.
It's a lost ideal.
Yeah.
Can we get that ideal back to the
I
table?
don't think so,
You don't think so?
No.
Why do you think?
because I think this is a training planet.
It's a training plan.
Training planet, and
my
we
God,
learn certain things
that's
here.
pretty deep.
Some things we're not going to learn,
Okay.
and we're going to move on.
Okay.
Some of us, a few of us, will become enlightened and go ahead and move on.
Okay.
But war is what makes the economy go around.
Okay.
War is a wonderful thing to these people.
Right.
It does two things. It creates immense employment. Think of what would happen to all these people if they stopped making Humvees, if they stopped making AK-47s. These people would be unemployed.
Well, that's the other side.
So it does the other thing.
It's
It
a
thins the
job.
population at the same time.
You got to eat.
It thins the population. So war is a wonderful thing. It creates unemployment. It creates employment and thins the population.
Right.
What could be better?
Right. But now that you just push a button, you don't need the other deals. You know what I'm saying?
Push a button.
Got me? Now, I'm getting back to this gentleman's question that he had about the petition that was being handed out there. In fact, it just so happened that one of the ones that was pretty out, we really talked about this issue, about this petition, was a gentleman by the name of Green. out of Houston, Texas. And it just so happened I grew up in that area, and I kind of grew up during the time that he was there. But he was there, and then he was up there asking for the the resignation and all this, that, and the other in regard to Trump. And then all of a sudden they found him in the same situation.
Yeah.
So now he's not there anymore. You got my point? So that's an interesting piece.
There's a lot of skeletons in the closet.
You got to see. So now this vetting thing has to be the closet deal. This is going to be around for quite some time. So in essence, kind of like saying, at least we have enough time between now and the next election. But we have an election now.
Yeah.
We got an election now.
Yeah.
I think that once, and all due respect, I think once March comes around, I mean, the people are going to be basically looking at that vetting as opposed to looking at the issues that we are having problems with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's another area that we got to think about.
Yeah.
See? So here we are, March, come March. When they close the door on in terms of filing for office, whether it be governor, whether it be whatever, whether it be city council, whether it be, anything local or whatever, you're going to be under the microscope.
Yeah.
So the key is that now's the time to think about it. So to a certain degree, that was a good thing, because imagine if we get into the race and people weren't given the opportunity to look at the closet, right?
Yeah.
Have some kind of answer there. And then have a discussion about, okay, fine, we're going to vet. You just can't just have anybody just coming up and say, I don't like Don, so I'll just say, hey, look, Don, I remember when you were a detective and, you raped me. And then your word against hers. You understand what I'm saying? That's a toughie.
Yeah.
So some way, shape, or form, we need to have a discussion on it now. Got me? See, because traditionally it's been said, in all due respect, from this, let's say, for instance, I'm just talking about law enforcement, and you just happen to be a policeman. There was this stigma out there stating that policemen were basically taking the prostitute and doing what they want to do with them and all that kind of stuff. All kinds of weird kind of a deal. Now, I know several officers that are elected to office, that in the legislature. Then boom, what happens if a woman comes up and says, boom, I don't like this guy because they might have committed a crime, somebody committed a crime, and then all of a sudden, so-and-so raped me. I had to do these kinds of acts with him. Well, what do they do? Well, no, I didn't do. Oh, yes, I did. I did. So now's the time to have the discussion. So I really like the guy who basically asked us about what do we do about this. So it's all the way to the top. So
Yeah,
we got now till March.
But the complaints need to be timely. They need to be timely. If you're sexually abused, you need to complain about it right away, not when it gets famous.
30 or 40 years, yeah, right.
I don't want to hear about it 30 years later.
But they're doing it though, regardless.
But they're doing it now.
They're doing it, and so are you saying that they shouldn't be doing that? They shouldn't accept that?
I'm saying it's too late, too little.
It's too late. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, so something needs to be said out there that's the way we're going to look at this stuff, right? From a legal perspective. Yeah. But it has to come from a venue, an entity that says they have the law to be able to put that in the law.
Yeah.
Get me?
Yeah.
And then if you do come up with something, then that's an harassment kind of a defamation of character. You can use all kinds of words in this area. Say no, it's a defamation of character, blah 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 routine, and make it very clear, because otherwise this can just, it can just mess up everything, if you will, on which hey, it's a cultural deal. Okay, so okay, we talked about that piece aspect of it. Now let's talk about this other biggie called Sanctuary City. Sanctuary City. Now the definition, Sanctuary City. I've got some thoughts about that from a local standpoint. The impact that sanctuary cities have. Now, first off, in all due respect, and again, it's respecting. I don't like the idea of this business about the undocumented worker aspect of it. That's another issue that they need to. He should have solved that from the standpoint that if they've gone through the process, if they give them immunity or whatever, but it should be citizenship or no citizenship. You got me? And then that's it. But they open up the floodgate, and now we got 11 million people that are worried about their own stay. They've established themselves. Their kids have gone to school and this, that, and the other. And then now they're looking at facing deportation. Right? You got me? Now, you ask yourself the question, well, someone had to look at it from a beneficial standpoint. Who was going to benefit from doing that? Okay?
I don't know. I don't think they're deporting anybody that doesn't have a criminal background.
what now?
I don't think they're deporting anybody that doesn't have a criminal background. I think the good people that came here and stayed here and didn't get in trouble aren't going to worry about it.
Well, but
I'm not sure.
But again, like I said, if you got the guidelines in terms of why we exist, that should have been known before they put that piece out there. That's what I'm saying. And when I say about the beneficial, no due respect, farmers benefited big time, and a lot of us just accepted the fact that, well, we're doing work that other Americans don't want to do. That's ridiculous. I mean, you got people on the unemployment roll, they're drawing a check, if you will. They've gone beyond, and if a job is available, they should go to that job, regardless of what it is. It's a check. You got me? But we didn't do that. We just said, don't worry about it. And people let's just go on and extend the bill and give people more money, as opposed to saying, we got these many jobs that are available and no one wants to work. But that's a discussion.
This is not really a sanctuary city because they keep taking people out of here.
Right.
And if it's a sanctuary city, then that shouldn't happen. So I think it's something, they're talking about it, but it's not happening.
Okay.
So we're not really a sanctuary city. I'm sorry.
Right.
Should we be a sanctuary city? I'm not sure.
But
I'm not sure sanctuary cities are even legal.
Right. No.
I think it's a state's issue. It's a states' rights issue that the federal government probably shouldn't be sticking their nose in. And I think some court already has decided that taking money away from the city because they're not complying with the sanctuary is not legal.
That's on the federal side.
That's on the federal side. So I don't think they can do that.
But the state have legalized it.
Has legalized
the sanctuary cities. Yeah. In fact, the state of Oregon, the state of California, they're into that whole state is sanctuary, so to speak. You got me? And then another area that they need to talk about is the impact. Like I started out before talking about the fact that now the way they were addressing the undocumented workers was that they're doing work that Americans don't want to work, and you got this employment role. Trust me, a lot of the jobs that are being lost. Look like we got another caller. Look like we got a caller coming in. Caller, we're in. Okay. We run out of time. Gee whiz. Yeah. Oh, gee whiz, I noticed that. Gee whiz. It was just getting good. But we'll talk about this sanctuary city at another point in time. But folks, we want to thank you very, very much for being with us. As you can see, we all have work to do. So please join us here at the Oregon Voters Digest. Okay? Have a good one. We'll see you next week. Take care. Hey folks, thanks for watching. But now I need to ask you a favor. Tell me what you think of the show. Because this show is for you, the viewers. I'm just here to help bring the discussion to the table, if you will. Is there a topic you want to hear more about? Get on that social media and send me a message. On YouTube, write a comment below the video. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, or a thumbs down if you didn't. And click subscribe and stay in touch with future discussions. You can also post a message on our Facebook page at facebook.com//Oregon Voter Digest. I love you folks, and I'll see you next week. Take care.